Hi, these comments are for SD. I am Michael from OTC Online TOEFLCourse.com. So you're focusing in two areas today. You're sending me some pronunciation practice and also you're sending me some speaking practice. You're getting ready for the TOEFL exam that's coming up in a week or so. And I'm going to give you some feedback on this. So we have the independent and we have the integrated speaking rubrics. Maybe we'll focus on the integrated today. Okay, and then we're actually going to listen to your pronunciation practice also. So let's see what we have. Okay, right here. And then let me get. Okay, I'm putting. I know what you're practicing right now, right? So I'm going to make sure I have. So you're focusing, I think, on the longer vowel sounds. Okay, here we
Here
go.
I'm going to do pronunciation, and the first word will be bought, boat, cut, coat,
Okay.
sock, soak,
All right. Perfect.
nut, note,
Nice.
got, goat, luck, loathe, ball, ball, on, dot, dote, con, cone, farm, for.
Now, when you do the pronunciation practice, I would rather that you do sentences or paragraph readings. I think this is more appropriate for what I'm trying to help you with right now. So I'm interested in you reading sentences, conceptually dense sentences with complicated vocabulary and things. So in the pronunciation part of my course, you will see I have sentence and paragraph readings after. Now maybe the next recording that's exactly what you're going to do, right? So let's see.
Form, torn, tarn,
Good.
honest, father, blow, blonde, glot, glow,
No, the first one is still O. It's gloat, gloat.
bum, comb.
Good.
Here I'm going to do pronunciation, and the first word will be bot,
Okay, so I think with these two sounds, the O and the Ah, I think that you are pronouncing those very clearly. So no major problems with that.
known, flown,
Okay.
mobile, mobbing,
It's mopping, mopping. So you're not pronouncing that P there. Mopping, mopping.
biography, biology,
Good, perfect.
bone, bond,
Okay, so the P is the consonant sound that you've been consistently having problems with. So that that would be a good exercise for you to practice. If you want to get some feedback from me, go to the pronunciation exercise where it's the P and the B consonant sounds, but this time I want you to only focus on the sentence and the paragraph readings.
However, the US Army.
Yeah, this is what I want you to focus on. Yeah, exactly this. Okay, let me get this ready. Okay, let's see how you did with. Okay, here we go.
Known, flown, mobile, mobbing. Characteristics of a culture. Indeed, it's known that forms of dance as army continually invaded this territory. Biology, bone, bond,
So the sentence readings are important because you're having some problems with pacing and also blending, and I want to give you some feedback on that.
However, the US Army continually invaded this territory, creating problems within the known zones of the native economy.
Okay, so what you want to do here is at the end of each thought group, your tone should go up slightly. So you'll say, however, the U.S. Army continue invaded this territory. Notice how this territory, my tone goes up, creating problems within the known zones of the native economy. Then you drop your tone at the end. Okay, here we go.
Indeed, it's known that forms of dance play an important role within a culture and reveal a wide range of information about the characteristics of a culture.
Okay, not bad. So let's look. So again, I want you to get used to pausing before those connectors. So indeed, it is known that dances, I'm not doing it right. It is known that forms of dance play an important role within a culture and reveal a wide range of information. Excuse me. So you have, indeed, it is known that forms of dance play an important role within a culture and reveal a wide range of information about the characteristics of a culture.
Ice speeds up the repair process and should be applied for 10 to 30 minutes on and off for not longer than 72 hours.
So in this case, ice. Ice speeds up. This is where the blending comes in. The S blends with the U. So ice speeds up the repair process and should be applied for 10 to 30 minutes on and off for not longer than 72 hours. So I would put on and off for not longer, group that together. So ice speeds up the repair process. So pause right before the connector and should be applied for 10 to 30 minutes on and off for not longer than 72 hours.
It is important to point out that adult feedback.
No, you're not getting it. You want to pause before these dependent clause connectors. It is important to point out that the adult feedback has a direct effect on development at this stage, again in helping the child to acquire the words to express increasingly subtle differences in references.
Has a direct effect on development at this stage, again in helping the child to acquire the words to express increasingly subtle differences in reference.
So
Known.
so your big trouble really that P sound is definitely hard for you. Express, develop, development. So it is important to point out that adult feedback has a direct effect on development at this stage, again in helping the child to acquire the words to express increasingly subtle differences in references. Okay, so what you can do is, I think what's going to be good for you, I want you to practice the area, it's called thought groups and blending. I think that's a great start right now. Maybe you can take 2 practice exercises from there each day until you finish all 4 of those lessons and focus again, sentences and paragraph readings only, just what you did here. This is where you're having the trouble. This is where I want you to give you the feedback. Okay, so my overall assessment of the pronunciation is be careful about when and where you pause. Be careful about the tone you're using when you're reading those sentences out loud, right? So I think this is good that you're practicing in this area. Let's take a look at your speaking integrated task number 2 now. You've done some pronunciation practice, a couple of minutes of that, right? I've listened to that. Now let's see how you can put this into practice in an actual TOEFL integrated speaking task.
According to the announcement, the university should allow students to bring their own laptop with them so they can take faster notes and pay more attention to the professors. However, the man in the listening doesn't agree with this change, and he denies each reason stated in this announcement. First of all, he mentions.
You don't have to say the man doesn't agree and denies each reason. That's just, it's redundant. Just say the man rejects the reason stated in the announcement. You don't have to have both of those verbs there. See, you're stuck with a certain grammar in your brain, right? You've memorized a certain structure on how you like to answer these speaking tasks. I'm trying to break you out of that, get you into something more original, less memorized, less templaic, or less templated.
That this will lead students to pay less attention to the professors because it will eventually distract them. Some students
No, because it will eventually distract them, not because it will eventually distract them. You want to take the word because and then link that to the subject and verb within that dependent clause. That's going to give you better pacing.
will take notes, but the majority, according to the man, will not take notes and they will play video games inside the
And they will play consistent problems with the P, right? And they will play blah blah blah. It sounds like you're saying and they will play. Sounds like you're using the B instead of the P.
classrooms and they may send other messages or emails to their friends.
No, they may send emails and messages to their friends. You're having some problems again with your pacing in there.
Secondly, according to the man, he mentions that not a lot of students
No, secondly, according to the man, he mentions that, but even that according to the man he mentioned, no, just say, secondly, the man mentions that blah blah blah.
have laptop. Therefore,
Lap laptops.
not a lot of them they will follow along with the professors to take notes and pay attention to the class.
Not a lot of them. Well, I'll listen to it. Well, let me go back. Hold on. I'm commenting right now in
Man,
here.
he mentions that not a lot of students have laptop. Therefore, not a lot of them they will follow along.
No, not a lot of them will follow along. Not a lot of them they will. You're repeating the subject unnecessarily. Stop. Don't do that. You have to figure out a better grammatical way. So not a lot of them will. You're using a lot, right? A lot of them, a lot of the students. Basically, not many of the students will, blah, blah, blah. So you already have a subject in there. There's no need to have that second pronoun to refer back to that subject.
On with the professors to take notes and pay attention to the class or the lectures. That's why the man in the listening doesn't agree with this change that students should bring their own laptop with them. According to
So that's why the man doesn't agree with the change that the students should bring laptops with them, something like that. Okay, let's listen to it one more time, and then I'm gonna give you a score.
the announcement, the university should allow students to bring their own laptop with them so they can take faster notes and pay more attention to the professors. However, the man in the listening doesn't agree with this change and he denies each reason stated in this announcement. First of all, he mentions that this will lead students to pay less attention to the professors because it will eventually distract them. Some students will take notes, but the majority, according to the man, will not take notes and they will play video games inside the classrooms and they may send other messages or emails to their friends. Secondly, according to the man, he mentions that not a lot of students have laptop. Therefore, not a lot of them they will follow along with the professors to take notes and pay attention to the class or the lectures. That's why the man in the listening doesn't agree with this change that students should bring their own laptop with them.
Let me listen to that last part one more time.
Class or the lectures. That's why the man in the listening doesn't agree with this change that students should bring their own laptop with them.
So with the change that students should bring new laptops with, okay, that's okay. So I think they're just still you're having some delivery problems, and you did have a few language use issues in there. So and there's patterns. There's definitely patterns going on. You tend to repeat subjects unnecessarily. You've done that several times in several different speaking practice tests. Stop doing that. It's easy for me to say, though, because I know in your grammar, you have a constructed system of grammar in your mind. It's not exactly the same as the grammar that I use, and that's okay, but some of it is non standard, which means it's grammatically incorrect, and that's what we have to work on a little bit. Okay, so based on The rubrics, yeah, I think you're still not quite there. I'm going to put you at about 24 to 26 points. In the beginning, the very part of the introduction in the beginning was perfect, but then as you go on, you can't quite ride the bike the whole time without falling off. There's always something that happens in the response. Maybe it's a problem with subject verb agreement. It could be an issue with word order. It might be using unnecessary subject in there. Whatever the problem is, you can't quite get through the whole response without falling off the bike a couple of times. So, but keep practicing. That's your goal, right? Now, I want you to practice the P and the B consonant sounds a little bit. And then when you send me your pronunciation practice, remember, focus only on sentences and paragraph readings. That's what I want to give you the more feedback in those areas. All right? And thank you for doing this practice. I'm now listening to your speaking integrated task number 4. So reading, listening, speaking, academic.
The professor explains 2 ways how snails survive.
Now let's say this word professor. Professor. The professor. So the stress is on the second syllable. So you want to make that syllable clearer, louder, longer, and higher pitched.
Survive in hot and dry climate. And the first one, by moving to vegetative areas where plants and shades are exist. The professor expands on this by mentioning that when the ground is hot, these snails will move to cooler areas, and also they can attach themselves to walls or trees where the environment has a low temperature.
How about they will move to cooler areas and attach themselves to blah, blah, blah. So maybe you don't have to repeat that subject twice. So the snails move to new areas and attach themselves to.
Secondly, according to the speaker, snails have covers on their skin, which is
No. According to the speaker, snails have covers on their skins. You don't really need any pauses in there at all.
shells, and these shells has calcium. This will prevent these snails from losing.
No, they have calcium, which will prevent them from blah, blah, blah. Show me you have some advanced grammar, right? That means that you combine some of your sentences to use adjective clauses, and adjective clauses are definitely a little bit more advanced grammar. And that way you avoid repeating words unnecessarily.
Any moisture inside their body, and they
You want to say the word moisture.
can use this moisture as long as the summer lasts. And
Definitely having problems with that word. Moist, right? That's an adjective. And then moisture. You're changing it from moist to moisture. So you're going from an adjective to a noun.
also they can store food inside these shells. Also, the professor explains that these shells, the snails can open them on the winter to get some food
I like how you're using some transition words in here to help connect your ideas together. It's a good strategy. Just don't rely on the same one too often.
or water, and use it when the environment is dry or hot. The
Okay, I don't think you have any grammatical problems in this one. I don't believe so. Let me listen to the whole thing again without interruption, and then I'll give you a score.
professor explains 2 ways how snails survive in hot and dry climate. And the
I would just say he explains 2 ways snails survive. Once you say ways, you don't have to say how. So the professor explains 2 ways that snails survive.
first one, by moving to vegetative areas where plants and shades are exist. The professor expands on this by mentioning that when the ground is hot, these snails will move to cooler areas, and also they can attach themselves to walls or trees where the environment has a low temperature. Secondly, according to the speaker, snails have covers on their skin, which is shells, and these shells has calcium. This will prevent these snails from losing any moisture inside their body, and
So they have calcium, which will prevent
they
them.
can use this moisture as long as the summer lasts, and also they can store food inside these shells. Also, the professor explains that these
Now, is this a third idea? You said first of all, second of all. Do you have to say third of all here?
shells. The snails can open them on the winter to get some food or water and use it when the environment is dry or hot. The professor.
Okay, so I think in this one, at least the good thing is you didn't have any grammatical problems with this one, right? So I think it's close to a 4, but probably not quite. You still had some delivery problems. Remember the problem with the word moisture, or the professor, blah, blah, blah. And just make sure you tighten up the organization, and remember that sometimes when you're using certain kinds of transition words, it may force you to use a similar kind of transition word after that. So first of all, second of all, third of all, things like that. So be careful about that. I think overall, I didn't notice any major language use problems. Maybe the limitation could be adjective clauses. You want to make sure you're not just using simple sentences all the time. You're combining some of those sentences to create a more complex grammar. So I want you to review the adjective clause lesson in my online TOEFL course. Make sure that you're comfortable with that. Okay? I think I'm going to say about 24 to 26 on this one, maybe 25 to 26. At least you didn't have any language use issues in there. I didn't notice any grammatical problems. If anybody spotted something at YouTube that I missed, you can go ahead and make your comments below this video. Let me know. What do you guys think? I mean, I'm talking to the YouTubers right now, SD. What do you think this speaker can do? He's stuck. He's stuck right around 25, right? He's at 25 points on the TOEFL speaking section, and he needs to get over that hump. So if you guys have any suggestions, please put them below the video. Let's create a conversation here. All right.